In 1990, a new Saturday morning children's block started airing on the Fox network, and it was one that became a pivotal part of many people's childhoods. Except mine. I actually don't hold any nostalgia for Fox Kids, as many of the shows associated with the block I watched elsewhere. However, that does not mean I don't admire the impressive crop of programming that launched on Fox Kids, and I'm going to count down my favorites, some of which I saw when I was younger, and a few I watched for the first time recently to compile this list. A few ground rules first though. The series has to have premiered on Fox, so that means no Beetlejuice, Tiny Toon Adventures, and Magic School Bus. Fox Kids also aired some imports, and I'm not including those either, so no Ned's Newt, Samurai Pizza Cats, and I'm sorry to say no Augie and the Cockroaches. With that out of the way, here are my top 10 Fox Kids shows. The New Woody Woodpecker Show. Bringing Walter Lance's classic cartoon star to the modern age, this was also able to find plenty of funny scenarios for the famous Woodpecker to partake in. Sometimes it was him dealing with an annoying neighbor, and in other episodes he might be dealing with his own conflict. The series embraced the cartoon nature of the character and made good use out of his energetic personality. His girlfriend Winnie got into her own scrapes as well, and the penguin Chilly Willy made the occasional appearance with his own wacky adventures. The animation had a certain polish to it I always admired, and the New Woody Woodpecker Show proved a worthy addition to the character's legacy. X-Men. Adapting the popular Marvel Comics superheroes, it's surprising to learn it was so hard to bring the show to the air, because it seems like such a slam dunk. The writers were able to show off the mutants' various abilities in the action scenes and give them the needed development. Most importantly, they did not appear to water down the anti-prejudice theme that has always been a major part of this superhero team. The show treated them with the needed respect, and the stakes were often there when they faced off against a villain. Unlike many other animated shows at the time, X-Men used a serialized format, which added to its comic book feel, although it is fascinating watching the television series following the recent live-action films. One can see the influence of the animated show while also being surprised at the depictions of the characters. They're not bad, just different. And hey, at least Jubilee got her due in the cartoon. One can make the argument that the superhero cartoons that followed in the 90s, 2000s, and current era owe a huge debt to what X-Men accomplished. Life with Louie. Animated series based on comedians and actors were a popular trend for a while, and I do think Life with Louie is one of the better ones. Inspired by Louis Anderson's childhood, this domesticated series tackled everyday issues with the right dosage of humor. It depicted the world through a child's point of view, but also with Anderson's adult perspective that helped make the character stand out. One of the key elements also comes from his relationship with his father. He often provided the funniest parts with his strange observations, and was also hilariously voiced by Anderson. Co-creator Matthew O'Callaghan deserves a lot of credit for handling the animation and giving the series an inviting quality. Life with Louie was a funny series with worthwhile lessons and inspired stories. The Adventures of Sam and Max Freelance Police. This was a cartoon that completely flew under my radar when it aired, and its short run seems to indicate I was not alone. Watching it for the first time, though, I found myself really enjoying the silly antics of this dog and rabbit who solve crimes, although that's a simplistic way of describing the series. Sam and Max is completely unpredictable, and the stories zig and zag in ways that are unexpected. Just when you think you know where the story's going, it throws a complete curveball. But I never felt the writers were just picking random situations out of a hat. Creator Steve Purcell, adapting his own comic books, embraces the outlandish nature of this world, and his art style also helps make the show unique. Harvey Atkin and Robert Tinkler have an excellent rapport as the voices of Sam and Max, and it's an entertaining ride seeing these two get catapulted from one strange predicament to the next. The Tick. Another series I only watch now, The Tick satirized the idea of what would happen if a city was overrun by wannabe superheroes. It's a really clever concept, and done with quite a bizarre sense of humor. One can definitely see it directly taking aim at superheroes like Batman and Aquaman, but the series also comes up with unique characters for its lead heroes to defeat. The relationship between Tick and his sidekick Arthur is well handled, as Arthur's smarts cope with Tick being more accustomed to using his brawn. The villains they encounter are certainly a strange bunch, and that makes them quite memorable. One villain is just a chair, and he's voiced by Tony Jay, and he wants to write his name on the moon. That's the kind of situation the Tick faces, and the writers make it work. With the current popularity of superheroes, I think The Tick is a show that deserves to be rediscovered. Bobby's World. Created by Howie Mandel, this series was a great look at the mind of a young child learning about life through his unique viewpoint. The scripts were very clever in depicting his troubles and how he dealt with what life threw at him. There was also solid humor, mostly born out of Bobby taking things literally, as shown through frequent peeks into his imagination. And yet, even with the more cartoony elements of Bobby's world, there was still a grounded element, and you bought this as a family unit. Bobby's dynamic with his parents and uncle also worked, and they became unique characters in their own right. Who can forget his mother ending almost every sentence with, "Don't you know?" They even showed the mother going through her pregnancy. The series also addressed serious topics, like in the crossing guard episode. For what started as a voice Mandel created when he was choking, Bobby's World was able to become a smart and extremely well-written series. Eeek the Cat. This series is pure cartoon lunacy from start to finish, as we watch Eeek deal with one predicament after another. Created by Savage Steve Holland and Bill Kopp, yep, the same people responsible for the whammies on Press Your Luck, this show never slowed down and came up with one wild story after another. The episode started simply enough, and they get more crazy. Even as these bad things continue to happen to Eeek, there is still an element of sympathy there. There was definitely a heavy influence from classic cartoons, but the stories were able to sustain the 22-minute episode length. The violence was appropriately over the top, but all done in good fun. The stories were able to build and build, but most of the comedy came from the physical gags and the ways in which characters would be flattened and whatnot. The writers and storyboard artists did a tremendous job of filling the episodes with plenty of jokes, many of which tickled the funny bone. Disney has done nothing with Eeek the Cat since they acquired the rights, and that's a genuine shame. Tasmania. The Tasmanian Devil was a character mostly known for spinning around, eating a lot, and speaking in gibberish. How do you base an entire show around that personality? Well, the creators of Tasmania found a way, as this was a very funny and witty cartoon. Part of what made it work was the large ensemble that popped up and interacted with Taz, his family being the main ones. Taz's family, being the stereotypical American nuclear family, is funny in its own right, and it was always great when they got together because he was so different from them. You had other wonderful characters too, like a pair of hunters who were crocodiles and smart platypus brothers. Warner Brothers Animation was known for producing really intelligent and incredibly well-written animated shows in the 90s, and Tasmania was no exception, with its brilliant combination of smart comedy and cartoon antics. Batman the Animated Series. An excellent adaptation of The Dark Knight, the makers of this show were able to put their own stamp on the legendary superhero while also honoring his place in comic book history. The series made brilliant use of Batman's rogues gallery and often knew when to properly utilize them for a specific scheme. However, Bruce Wayne himself never got sidelined, as the show was able to show the torment of this massive responsibility weighing on him. The art style brought an amazing atmosphere to Gotham City, and we feel Batman's need to protect his city from the villains roaming the streets and causing trouble. It says something about the animated series that it even influenced the comics, including turning Mr. Freeze into a tragic figure and introducing the Joker's occasional partner in crime, Harley Quinn. There have been many fantastic versions of Batman, but when I think of the Caped Crusader, it's this version I think of first. And my #1 favorite Fox Kids show is Animaniacs. If you've been watching me long enough, you probably had an inkling this would take the top spot. It's not only my favorite series that premiered on Fox Kids, it's my favorite animated series of all time. Its Looney Tunes-inspired anarchy, the clever jokes at pop culture's expense, and the wonderful cast of characters all combine to create an amazing cartoon. Whether we're following the Warners causing trouble, Pinky the Brain trying to take over the world, or the Goodfeathers trying to prove their worth, Animaniacs often has something for everyone. The hummable songs, the witty dialogue, the fast-paced animation, there's rarely a moment where I'm not smiling. Animaniacs is a series I'll always cherish, and yes, I have seen the recent revival, and I think it's a fantastic continuation. It does not even feel like the Warners have left. Now let me know in the comments what your favorite Fox Kids shows are. It's possible some of your favorites just missed, or like The Tick and Sam and Max, it flew under my radar. Either way, Fox Kids had an impressive collection of series. See you next time.